Boys and girls, we are at the end of the work week finally. Thank goodness. It's Friday evening, and we are getting ready for some wrestling. Shh, don't tell nobody I'm going to PAPW after this. Shh, it's our secret. This is Stir in the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest. He's a ring announcer. He's a commentator. A couple other hats probably sprinkled in between. He is Shawn Pie Jacobs. Thank you so much for joining STP this evening, my man.
And thank you for having me, Kincaid. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time to say hello to all the people and to sort of get to know who I am, because people were like, who is this guy? What is he all about? And I see him in the ring, and he looks like a Frankenstein. What is he? No, that's, you know what, honestly, like when I look back at my ring announcing, I look so stiff, and I'm like, man, I look like Frankenstein out there. I'm so tall, and that's the one thing I hate about being tall as a ring announcer, is that I feel like I'm too tall as a ring announcer. But I'm perfect as color commentator because I got the face of radio, face for radio, I should say. So.
Face for radio, yes. I have been told that myself. Very interesting. Tonight, we are coming from a different location. We are at Papa Kincaid's. I figured I'd come here. It's a little closer between work and then PAPW. So we're at a different locale tonight. And I just wanted, and like you said, that's why we bring on the talent, my man, is to get the fans to know what's going on out there with the unfamiliar faces that they may see pop up at a different promotion, So say if you've been to Battlefront, the fans don't know Shawn Pie Jacobs. Those are the things, that's why we bring on the talent, because we want the fans to be able to broaden their horizons and network and stuff like that, because that helps you guys and girls brand your stuff and get the word out,
Absolutely. I want to say hi to my boys, Matt DeCourt, Mike Falvo, Eric Price, by the way. I just want to say hello to those guys, because those guys are awesome. They're awesome at what they do as well. I came here to do color commentary. That's like my dream. Ring announcing is great. I can do ring announcing. I'm good at it. I got the voice of God when I have it in me. But I'm more of I want to do color commentary. I've always wanted to do it. I came from radio back in 2003. So I went to radio school. I ended up working for Mason in the morning. I ended up working for JR. I got my own radio show for about a year. So I worked radio for like 4 years. And then an opportunity came along that I had to take, because if you ask anybody in radio, you'll know that radio is dead. Like there's nobody, people are still working on radio, but radio is a dead medium right now. It's all like internet. And that's where everything is, which is great. So I got into the radio at the very tail end of the good times, but I had an opportunity to work at a strip club. A guy named Spider offered me a job over at Night Booze in Latham, New York, and ever since then, I've been making a living working at a strip club. Now, I've been a wrestling fan all my life. So, like, my very first memory as a child was, like, standing in a crib while 2 cigarettes smoked in an ashtray, and my mom and my dad were arguing, like, screaming at each other. My second memory I had as a child was me crawling around as, like, a 2 or 3-year-old, and I could hear another man yelling and screaming, but it was pro wrestling. It was a guy, like, screaming a promo. So wrestling's always been on in my house. And I really took notice during WrestleMania 1 when Hulk Hogan and Mr. T were on Saturday Night Live. And I was like, oh my God, who are these guys? That must be like the real He-Man, because I was a huge He-Man mark too. So I went from He-Man to pro wrestling, and I grew up in the Midwest. I come from Wisconsin. I come from a village in the middle of nowhere, really. So I had wrestling. I had wrestling Saturday mornings. I watched NWA Saturday morning, NWA Saturday night. Monday night would be primetime wrestling with Gorilla and The Brain, which is awesome. So I watched that growing up. So I've always been a huge wrestling fan. And my first show was like, I was 8 years old. I went and saw the AWA. It was a house show. And where the main event was the Midnight Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. You might know them. They teamed up with Jimmy Snuka, excuse me. I'm a little nervous. Snuka for a 6-man tag team event. It was awesome. Sherry Martel, she refereed a match that night.
Okay.
They didn't even announce her. She refereed for one of the Nasty Boys, Jerry Saganovich, before he became Jerry Sags, and Brian Knobs was in the first match, and he was fantastic. He was just jaw jacking with the audience a lot. Like he really like made an impression on me. Plus, he sort of looked like me, blonde and just loud and obnoxious. So that was my very first show. And then I had a run-in when I was about 9 years old. I live in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, right? So I used to go to the only grocery store in town and go read wrestling magazines. We would get Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, and another wrestling magazine. So I would go save up all my money, and I would usually buy these magazines at the end of the month, or me and my friend Jake would buy the magazines at the end of the month, and then we'd borrow each other the magazines. So one day I'm standing in the grocery store in Macy's in Bruce, Wisconsin, and the one and only Ole Anderson walks in from the Four Horsemen. This is right after he got kicked out of the Four Horsemen to spend time with his snot-nosed kid. So about a couple months later, he shows up in my village. I live in Wisconsin. This village is 800 people. Like you can't even call a town unless you have 1,000 people, and we did not. Like 800 people, that's what we had.
Wow.
But Ole moved to town, and he ran a sawmill for like a year and a half, and then he went back to the NWA, where they promptly kicked staying out of the Four Horsemen, which was a smart move. And I like to think that maybe Ole went back because he couldn't stand me or my friend Jake constantly being on his ass about the Four Horsemen, throwing up the four sign wherever we saw him. You know what I mean? So I went to a few other shows. Like AWA was like the first handful of shows that I went to growing up. And then when I was 15, I was living in a foster home at the time, and my dad had called me up and said, "Hey, you know, they're doing the first Monday Nitro at the Mall of America." And we lived like 15 minutes away. I said, "Oh, yeah, I know about it." He goes, "We want to go see it?" I said, "I guess. Yeah, let's go." So Mall of America is like 4 floors. Like you could have saw Monday Nitro from any like vantage point that night. But we got there, and they were still putting people in seats. They were still trying to find people to put in the seats, and they were looking for families to put in the front row to put on the camera. And me and my dad were there. Me and my dad happened to look a lot alike. So his friend from work and his daughter were there, and they chose us to go front row at Monday Nitro, the very first one at the Mall of America. So I was there, and I got to see everybody: Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Savage, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Terry Taylor was there. Like all of like Sting and Flair wrestled. Like not many people have actually gotten to see Flair and Sting wrestle, and not many people can say they actually saw them live at the very first Monday Nitro, and I was there. Now I'm actually not on camera. I'm like on the camera side, but there's like these glass elevators that you can see during the first Monday Nitro, and there's a kid in the front row wearing a very white T-shirt and trying to be as animated as possible. But yeah, I was there. It was awesome. I was very fortunate just to be there. They were just happened to be looking for families to put in the front row, and there I was, the very first Nitro. That was one of the coolest things that's ever happened. And I almost tracked down Bobby the Brain Heenan. They brought him and Mongo out to show them where the desk was, where the commentary desk was, and everybody started chanting Weasel at Bobby Heenan. And man, he sold it like he really hated being called Weasel. Like he was just, "Oh, I can't stand it. Stop it. Just stop." And it was like, I was like, wow, this is cool. So I followed him. I tried to follow him to the backstage area, and I got about 2 car lengths behind him, and he gave me the slip. He was already educated and a veteran at giving fans a slip by then. He gave me the slip. I like to think that he felt me on his radar, and he gave me the slip. So I was like that close to seeing Bobby. But yeah, that was an awesome night. And then after that, the next best historic show I was at was the very first Raw Separation show back in 2001, 2002, where Brock Lesnar knocked me over on the way to the ring to hell out of the Hardy Boys. So yeah, and I got a photo of Paul Heyman like right in his big fat face. That was, I sort of feel like I should have been doing pro wrestling this entire time, but I wanted to do radio. I thought that was like a sexier dream, and so I went for that, and I did it, and I started doing strip club stuff. And my first run in with pro wrestling was back in 2005. I was supposed to do an arm wrestling match with another guy at a radio station, and the show ended up getting canceled like that night. That sort of sucked. Then I had a few other run-ins with some people, and I voiced a wrestling ad for In Your Face Wrestling, which is a wrestling company here in Albany that was running. I happened to call them up one night. I said, "Oh, I saw your commercials, and I like the announcer, but man, you know what? Let me send a demo your way, and if you like it, use it." So I recorded a demo that night, and I sent it over, and they ended up using it. So my voice was on TV ads that were like local, like showing during Monday Night Raw, which was kind of cool too.
Nice.
So yeah, and then finally 2019 is when I finally decided to give this like a real run, because Mike Madewell was looking for a ring announcer for Truly Independent Wrestling. So I had to work up the courage just to send him a message because I wasn't confident. I wasn't ready. I was out of the announcing business completely. I wasn't even working strip clubs. I was out for like 9 months. I was working at a parking booth, like in a little room by myself, and it was quiet, and I enjoyed it. But I got the call back from the strip club to come back, and then I had to work up the courage, like 2.5 hours. I'm like, okay, let's write this thing, and I did it. I was like, okay, let's send it off, and let's see what happens. And I went back to work, and that night I was working at Boscov's as a janitor.
Okay.
So, all right, let's just go back to work and do our thing. And then he got back to me. It's like, yeah, we could use you. And then I went out and I did it. And then ETWA was looking for a ring announcer. So I answered them and I sent them a demo. And they're like, yeah, come on up and do it. And I started doing announcing for them. And I'm like, if I could do that there, I could do that there. I could. So I just decided to just run with it. And here I am on your show, non-stop talking. Sorry.
No. You're being very informational. You're bringing us along your journey. That's what we want, my man. Thank you for all of that.
No, and thank you again for having me. And I was watching a few of your shows, and you called Matt DeCourt the voice of the Northeast, and I think that is, I think that's wrong. I think you have been the voice of the Northeast because without you, a lot of people wouldn't know about us, wouldn't know about the performers, wouldn't know necessarily about all the matches that happen because you're there, you're recording it, you're involved, and without a Don Kincaid, like there's really not, you're just not going to see a whole lot of pro wrestling without a guy like you. So we need people like you, and I love you. I think you're fantastic. So I think I used to think I had your energy, but I don't. Um, I have it a little bit. Like I get bits, I like bits and spurts of like, yeah. But then like by the end of the night, I'm just like, I'm done. I'm good. But no, I love your energy, and I love that you're around, and I love that you do these shows to kind of get us out there to say hi to everybody. For those who don't necessarily get a chance to talk to like the announcers because like we're either working or I'm good with talking to the boys. I'm good with talking to the promoters. I'm not great with talking with people yet, and that's the next thing I'm working on is trying to be better with talking with people because I'm shy. Really, I'm a very shy person. And for what I do, you wouldn't think that I'm a shy person, but I'm a very shy person. Talking to fans is awkward to me. I had an experience about a year ago where I did a birthday party for a kid for NYCW, like a birthday party. Like they threw on a whole show for this kid, like a whole like 6 matches. It was like really awesome. But I got to be announcer for this birthday party, so I went out and bought like birthday gifts for this kid. I bought him like an air horn, some silly string. I was like, yeah, that's really cool. That was something I'm I'm not really good with kids because I don't have any, and I never really plan on having any either. But I'm not very good with kids, or I didn't really think I was. But apparently, I'm very good at kids. I worked a show at ETWA where the weekend, and another celebrating a birthday, and all the wrestlers signed this wrestling belt for him. So they bring him to the ring, and like I just got on my knees so I could like eye to eye because I hate that whole bending over. Like, let me just get on my knees so I could talk eye to eye to the kid, and like I could hear some awes in the audience. I'm like, yeah, that's what I was kind of going for. Yeah, it was cool. So getting the opportunity to do different things is really cool because I can do ring announcing, I do color commentary, and anything else that companies need. I try to be open minded to, and I want to learn everything as possible as I can about this business because I want to be a success. I want to be not like everything I've done up until this point in my life, I've been a success at. Like, I wanted to be on the radio. I just wanted to be a radio DJ, and I ended up doing morning radio and afternoon talk show radio. And I never thought in a million years I would even be doing that, and I did it, and I was successful at it while I did it. So, and I did podcasts for like 6 years, which was an offshoot of one of the talk shows that I was working on the radio. And I took some of their, not I didn't take some of their listeners, but we were like an add-on show. Like, oh, you like that show? Listen to our show too. And it's like a show that'll go along with that show. So we did that podcast for like 6 years, and that was a lot of fun. I had my own website for a while, but that was very draining because I did a show every week for 3 hours, and so it was a lot of show prep. And I'm so glad I don't do the podcasting stuff anymore because I don't have it within me anymore. I don't have that soapbox. I don't have that, like, I have something to say. I don't. I love hearing what other people have to say now. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, yeah, that's cool. And that's another great thing about being in the pro wrestling business is that I love doing this, and it's never going to be really about me because it's about the wrestlers. It's about the people who go out and perform in these matches. It's about people who put their bodies on the line. It's about those people. And as long as I'm looking about those, I'm looking over those people, and I'm taking care of those people, I'll be taken care of in return. You know what I mean? Like, just karma wise, I mean.
Right.
And I love seeing like all these new kids grow. Jimmy Limits is one of them who I've seen since he was just a little Sebastian, and he's awesome now. Like, he's I love watching him work in the ring. He's fantastic, and he's really, really like coming along.
Can I
There's
can I pause? Can I pause you just for a second? Around here, when Jimmy Limits comes in our area, because he used to go and frequent PWA every single show that they had in Cheshire, Connecticut, a
okay.
few years back. It was a smaller place, and it was a training, a training facility. You had the likes of Dickie Moon and Nathaniel Carr and Dan the Man and Ryan Frost when he was in his previous venture as a referee, Sammy Diaz, and all these guys were just legit starting up, and we were seeing all of these kids kind of coming up, at the very beginnings. But Jimmy Limits, around here, we call him Jimmy Loser. Jimmy Lose. And let me tell you something, because that does not happen up in the areas of the TIWs and the NYCWs and such. When he's around PAPW or maybe a test of strength every so often when he gets sprinkled in or whatever, and I break that out, ooh, I set that boy on fire with
I, I I love Jimmy Limits. I think he's really like coming along. Guy Sadlowski is another one who is become like a really good friend, like outside the ring to me. And he's just a fantastic dude. Um, People who aren't like wrestling as much, who I love to death, like JD Man, who got me my start at Battlefront. He was like, "Bro, you got to come out here. You're gonna love this place, and they're gonna love you." I said, "Okay," and I almost quit when that happened because you were at that show that shall not be named. Um, I worked the show and it went poorly, very, very poorly. I didn't even make it halfway through the show. They had somebody else announce the rest of the show for me. It happens. You have a bad show. You have to get through like a bad time, and if you can get through a bad time, then maybe you can make it. And I went through a very bad time that day. I bit off more than I could chew. But JD contacted me about a couple weeks after I had my very bad show. And he's like, bro, you got this. Guy Sedlowski contacted me. He said, bro, you got this. You're fine. You just had a bad show. You'll get through it. And I was like, I was going to quit. I was just going to be like, you know, I quit. I'm done. I suck. I'm out of here. And then JD's like, no, you got to come out to Battlefront and meet these guys. And I went out and I met all these awesome people, like Jiggy Souza, who's just another fantastic worker, and he's just a lot of fun to watch. He's got like the best elbow drop in the business, I think. But I get to go out there and meet people out there, and the fans are awesome too. And my first show, I went in and I killed it, and they told me that I had the people on my side, and that's cool. Because I just try to go out there and be, if I'm ring announcing, I just want to go out there and be as energetic as possible. I made up my own like flyer or graphic design, because I like doing that. Like on the side, it's like fun. It's like coloring, like for adults, like graphic design. So my thing is like, I'm professional, I'm energetic, and whatever the other word is. Anyways, it's for pep, because I'm very peppy. I like to go out there and get to, get people energized. I love that. So I don't even know where I was going with that. You got any other questions? I'm sorry. The train the train derailed in mid thought. Sorry.
I'm gonna tell you a quick story, real quick,
yes.
And it has to do with Battlefront and Two Buff specifically.
And yeah, those are your buddies, Two Buff. Yeah, they're
yeah. Let's not call them my buddies. And it also involves Bull Dread. So we were outside. There was some chit chat going on. There was a couple circles hanging outside pre-event at a Battlefront show. Bull Dread comes walking outside from the building, and he walks up to the kid with the mohawk, being Two Buff, and says these words. And I'll never let Two Buff, I will never let him live this down. Hey, you're the guy I give the music to, right? And we just looked at each other and we were like, oh shit, he thinks he's Shawn Pie Jacobs. We just died fucking laughing. And Two Buff looks at Dread and he goes, no, man. He goes, and I go, you don't know who he is? That even makes it so much better. And dude, I lost my absolute shit. He was told to give his music to a guy with a mohawk, and he saw Two Buff and he thought it was
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they get to face the stepdads this weekend at New World Wrestling Extreme. I'm looking forward to that match. Are you going to be there? Where are you going to be tomorrow?
Tomorrow I will be actually non-wrestling related. I will be up in Yeah, I'll be up in Springfield.
By the way, are we live or are we recording? How is this working?
I always record. I always just take this raw footage, re-recording, no live. This isn't like a Facebook Live would be in real time. This is recorded, and then I put it up on my YouTube.
When is it going up? Like tonight? Because
probably, because I do have wrestling after this, but later on, and it doesn't take, for the interviews, it doesn't take long at all to put up. So it will be up this evening.
Okay, because I just want to make sure if I'm talking about like the show tomorrow, it's not going to be old. You know what I mean? So
no. I got you.
yeah. I have a lot going on. Even next weekend, I have NYCW Downtown Beatdown in Utica too. That's a
nice.
awesome outfit, awesome people. Johnny Patch is running that outfit, which is really cool, dude. And the really interesting thing about doing the ring announcing and going out and doing this is I get called back to almost every company that I work for, which apparently doesn't happen to everybody. So I was like, oh, that's sort of weird. And I had to stop seeking new clients. I had to stop seeking new companies to go to, because I'm like, I just want to work everywhere. But I had to stop because I'm doing so much now. So I'm like, all right, well, I might go to a show here and there, but I can't give myself anymore because I'm booked out. I'm booked out the rest of the year with New World Wrestling Extreme, which is awesome.
Right.
I'm I'm working with TIW. I'm going to miss their show this weekend because I already have a, see, that's one of the things when you're, sometimes you work show to show, where you just come in, okay, we'll have you next show, have you next show. And sometimes the company says, we want you for the next 6 to 8 to 12 shows. And NWWE was the first company to do that for me, which was really cool. And I've even had Battlefront like, hey, we want you back. And we've had the company say that we want you back. But to have the company say, we want you for the X number of shows is really cool. So now I have something to do the rest of the year for this company. And I've only just begun to scratch the surface of what I can do. And I hope everybody really enjoys what I'm about to bring to pro wrestling, because I'm going to bring an energy that probably hasn't not been seen in a very long time. I watched WrestleMania over the weekend, and I almost was terrified because I was like, oh no, man, the WWE is on such another level, and it almost makes you want to go, man, could I even get to that point? Could I even, like, I saw Pat McAfee like standing on the commentary desk, and I'm like, that's we're doing that now. That's what I was like, I never even would have thought of doing that, and it's almost like, man, what is that's I have to live up to. That's what we have to live up to, I guess, or something. I don't know. But I'm gonna try not to think about that because I don't watch any of the big shows right now. Because it's like, if you're a musician and you write music, and you want to like write an album or something, you want to write some music. Some musicians will not listen to music at all. They'll forsake music so they can be more creative and original without being, oh, I heard that and it influences you in some way. So I don't want to be influenced. I want everything to come from the heart and from me. And after the last New World Wrestling Extreme show, Heart of a Lion, after it was released, and I watched it, and I watched it again. I took a lot of notes, and what I'm going to do, what I need to do in pro wrestling, it all came to me. It all came to me. It was like I've been on this path, right? I've also been in recovery. Okay, I was an alcoholic for very many years. Let's just say like 10 years, like straight alcoholic, the worst alcoholic ever. It sucked. It sucked. My genetics are predisposed to alcoholism and drug abuse and all that kind of stuff. So I was an alcoholic for a lot of years, and that's probably why I wasn't in pro wrestling, because I was out getting drunk. But I've been sober a little over 4.5 years from alcohol, almost a year from everything else. And I've been on this path where I'm trying to make myself better and continue on being better. And I'm like reading this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Like a 12-week workbook, sort of like spiritual assessment. And I've been every chapter I've been stretching into a month because I really want to take my time in making myself a better person. And this book, The Artist's Way, is great for anybody who is creative or who is stuck creatively, because being a creative person is tapping into like your childhood and tapping into that childlike sense of wonder inside yourself. Wow. And I got all my toys. This is my Tiger Mask poster, Tiger Mask W, which is a anime online. You can find it on Tubi. It's one of the greatest wrestling shows I've ever seen. One of the greatest anime. Tiger Mask W. Go look for it on Tubi. Anyway, there's a called Tiger Mask in Japan back in the 60s. Somebody's doing English subtitles for it now. It's cool. But you have to have like this childlike sense of wonder, and it's all about like tapping back into that and listening to the source, the creator, as it were. I'm not a religious dude. I was like raised Lutheran, and I went to church and Sunday school, and I sang in choir. So I did all of that. I was confirmed and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm a very spiritual person now, and I feel like I'm in tap with the creator, whatever is the great spirit. I sort of feel like we're all like that alien race who's in Deep Space Nine. Like we all go back to the big liquid ball at the end. You know what I mean? But yeah. So, anyways, I figured out what I need to do in wrestling now as a color commentator, because I really want to have fun, and I want to do it where it's me and I'm not playing a character. And so I'm turning up the most vital, important parts of me to 11 for pro wrestling. So those things are gonna start coming out, and I'm gonna be the most boisterous color commentator, hopefully, that you have heard in years. Hopefully.
Congratulations on having somewhat of an evolution here, because we talk about evolution on the show within the talent, because it could be their mindset, their moveset, their gear, their gimmick, being a heel or a face, or they have a mouthpiece with them. Evolution of a character always happens in wrestling, and I think we're finding right here with one Shawn Pie Jacobs as a color commentator. I do apologize, and I hate to bring this to a tail end because I do have to hit the road. But before I do let you go, I want the fans that don't know of Mr. Pie Jacobs, where can we find you on the medias? Is there a YouTube? Is there a Twitter? Is there a Pornhub? What do we got going on for the
fans? There's an only. None of you get that. Only my fiance gets the OnlyFans. You know, it's a pass with everything. No, all under one name, Shawn Pie Jacobs, ShawnPijacobs. That's Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. One of the things I learned was you keep your name all one name, so they can find you everywhere. So if you type you in, oh, there he is everywhere. It's all one thing. So yeah, Shawn Pie Jacobs. I do a little bit of TikToking. I'm trying to figure out my angle with the internet thing, because again, I sort of lost my soapbox, and I'm trying to find my I'm trying to find my internet personality per se. But I've definitely found my color commentary vibe. So yeah, make sure to check out New World Wrestling Extreme Heart of a Lion video. Make sure to check my Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I'll have it all posted so you can see it. You can hear the genius and the brilliance that is Pie at New World Wrestling Extreme, and then you can hear my loud ass voice everywhere else.
Yes, and I see there was a 3-man color team up there. That was very cool. Yeah, I saw that at the.
Yeah, Tank is there. Tank is freaking awesome. GK, I have to say no, thank you to those guys, because they really, like, they allowed me to come into their home and allowed me to be me, and they have been very cool and warm and welcome to me, and that, including like James Allen, the guy who runs the company. Like, everybody's been very, very nice to me. So I love you all, including you, Omar. I know I didn't say your name yet.
He was probably waiting the whole time.
He was waiting all show for that. I love you, Omar. You know what? Actually, I one more I have to do. I love Omar so much. I even had a painting. Can you see this thing back here behind me?
I have an Omar original too. I got one of those.
Yeah, see? High voltage, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I love you. I love you. I love all you fans. Please be careful on your way to PAPW tonight, and say hello to the Battle Club for me.
Battle Club, meow. This is Stir the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Shawn Pie Jacobs. Thank you so much, my man.
All right.